And we have a couple of fellows in studio with us who are familiar to people who are tuning in this morning. And we're talking firearms today, 6 minutes after 9 o'clock. We're joined by Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pawn and Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense. And we broke 40. We're at 42 right now on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. Weather like this means Todd isn't sweating when he's out running the new trails.
It's freezing to death.
Running through the mud and everything else. You got to start running in Wellingtons.
There you go.
Can you imagine trying to run in those things?
Yeah, no, not going to happen.
Some wingtips would be awesome.
Wingtips. I was going to say, some weeks we wonder, what are we really going to talk about? But by gosh, out of tragedy this week, there's a lot that's stirring in the pot. And I heard this morning on Fox, some congressmen who are going to be voting to restrict bump stocks admitted they never heard of them until just the last couple of days. So I'm not knocking their vote. I'm just saying that they probably wetted a finger, saw which way the wind was blowing, and said, I'm going to vote this way. But they didn't know what they were.
I think the GOP is feeling a lot of pressure to do something. And we can all look at that logically and look at, you look at fully automatic weapons. You look at weapons in general. In France, they are not legal, but the bad guys still use them. Bombs are not legal. In England, they still use them. There's a lot of pressure for in the public for the government to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Now, honestly, those bump fire stocks, I've got video of me shooting one somewhere. I don't know where it ended up. But all they do is make your gun shoot almost at the same rate as full auto fire. But the way you kind of got to manipulate the weapon, you got to push the gun forward and it bounces off your trigger finger, and they aren't effective for really anything except for that kind of scenario, in my opinion. I mean, yeah, you can have one, you can make your gun go full auto. If you're using it tactically to defend yourself, it would be completely useless for that scenario. If you want to spray into a crowd of people, or you want to shoot into a dirt hill and go through a mag ammunition in a hurry, yeah, it'd be great for that. But it's really, honestly, not effective for much more than that. So if they got to throw a bone, that wouldn't be a bad bone to throw, because in my opinion, they're pretty useless for anything but wasting ammo anyway. But
Todd,
I don't think we should throw anyone a bone. I mean, it's just, you give a little, they're going to want more. That's all they're going to want. The NRA, I was going to read it, but it's a huge statement. Came out with a statement yesterday. Did you by any chance see that, Bill?
I got some comments from Wayne right here.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think they're bending too much. It's just a piece of plastic. It's just, have I used one? No. Would I ever buy one? No, probably not. But I just don't think we should give in anything. And it sounds to me like they're trading that for maybe a chance of national reciprocity being pushed through. And then the whole suppressor deal is just going to go by the wayside. I don't know what's going to happen to it, but I don't know. I don't think you should give them a bone. I don't think you should throw them anything. But I understand. I guess they probably are under a lot of pressure to do something.
Well, LaPierre was on Sean Hannity's program last night, and here's a couple of things he happened to say about this. He says he's not calling for a bump stock ban, but he's on board with at least a review. Take a listen.
It takes a semi-automatic firearm and it makes it perform like a fully automatic firearm. It makes it function like one. And what the NRA has said is we ought to take a look at that, see if it's in compliance with federal law, and it's worthy of additional regulation.
Clearly there are no choppers banned in Wayne's neighborhood.
Yeah.
He's competing with one in that particular bite. But again, it sounds as if you're right. Toss them a bone. Maybe they'll go away this time.
Well, they won't go away.
No.
I agree with Todd.
They won't.
But here's the thing I look at. It comes to functionality. We train a lot of high-end guys down at Shaw Shooting. The only time they ever use full auto is they're putting down suppressing fire. You never see these guys running the course using 3-round burst or full auto when they've got the guns to do it. And they just don't use it because it's not effective. You want to put your shot on target. Each time a bullet leaves the barrel, it's got an intended target. It's not like, okay, one for the target and two more for wherever, which is what happens when you run full auto fire. You just can't be that effective. So I mean, I don't know. I don't want to give in to anything, but then again, I don't see this as, if they ban bump stocks, I don't see them giving anything up, because they are useful for absolutely nothing but wasting ammunition. That's the only use they have, and they never were even passed by Congress. The ATF just said, yeah, I guess you can use them, because you're not actually, you're having to pull the trigger each time, which it does fit that rule. But I mean, I don't know.
I Well, LaPierre went on to say this, and I think that he's reflecting on the fact that the NRA, is looking at this and saying criminals are going to be criminals. And take a listen.
All over the world where the people are disarmed, these monsters, these bad guys go about their business. They could care less what laws are on the books. What the NRA is fighting for is reciprocity, enforce the existing federal gun laws, protect the Americans' right to protect themselves.
So, I think that he's sort of negotiating this too as well. He's kind of walking through this one, realizing, all right, I'll talk about this, but I don't necessarily think he's ready to give in.
Maybe I look at it as maybe it's just me. Maybe I just don't like the trade that it looks like they're making. They're making that trade for national reciprocity. Maybe they should be making that trade for the suppressor law, the suppressor bill. Maybe that'd be a better trade. If you're going to take something and you're going to take it away and say either we can't have it or it's going to be regulated, then we need to pull something else off that list. Give me a suppressor.
We have a caller with us, and I want to point out the telephone number to reach the show today, 208-736-0300. You're listening to News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. We're at 43, and caller, you're on the air.
Good morning, gentlemen. I was really surprised when the stock actually was legalized. I mean, because it does simulate fully automatics. But anybody that understands how a trigger system works, the primary sear and the secondary sear all have jobs. You need a third sear in order to create a full automatic. But with just 5 minutes of work, I can turn the secondary sear so that it will create a double bump. So it will fire when you pull the trigger and it will fire when you let it go. And you can really get rid of a lot of bullets that way too. But there's on YouTube, you got Jerry Miculek proving that he can fire an AR just as fast as a bump stock. So anybody that's got any kind of training or anything else can simulate the same thing. But, again, why do we want to give somebody that has no background or no morals of the opportunity to use a gun as a full automatic? I don't understand.
Yeah, and you can also, you can use your belt loop. You can do it with a Glock.
I put together an AR wrong before and ended up having something close to that.
So the thing is, I mean, I don't know. I don't see the use of the bump stock. I think they're a great way to burn a bunch of ammo. They are effective for one thing, and that would be if you had a huge group of people standing in front of you and you wanted to throw a bunch of bullets in there indiscriminately. That's probably about the use it would be for. Or if you just wanted to go out and say, look at this, I'm going to burn all this ammo, and you could do that.
Maybe we need to look at the other side, though. I mean, they always want to focus on the gun. They always want to focus on the weapon. They always want to focus on that kind of thing when anything like this happens. And this is the discussion that it's been brought up, but no one's ever really had. And I don't know the answers. I don't claim to know the answer. Maybe we need to focus on the person. It's the person. What caused this? Why did he do this? Was he mentally ill? Supposedly that ran in his family through some of his family members. I could have a bump stock, which I don't, but I could have a bump stock or slide fire or whatever sitting at home with my AR on the table for how long, and it's not going to jump up and do anything unless I'm the one that picks it up and pulls the trigger and makes it function.
We have a caller joining us, caller number 2. You're on the air at 9:15 on Top Story. Go ahead.
Yes. The bump stock is something that I don't feel like anybody needs. Of course, I am not a big fan of the AR personally myself. Not that there's anything wrong with it. Don't get me wrong. But when we start looking at making things full auto, the common Winchester 94 lever action, John Browning turned it into a full auto firearm. So it's not what it's not the design of the weapon. It's the misdesign of the individual's brain that is causing the problem. Thank you.
I agree with that too. I looked at this and I talked to someone about it earlier this week, and I said, look, this guy had 2 airplanes. Had he not had access to those firearms,
Yeah.
he had 2 airplanes. And can you imagine the damage with an airplane full of airplane fuel if he would have crashed that into a crowd of 22,000 people?
And he had the money to do it.
He would have had 10 times the casualties.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That boils down to what we talked about before. In a free society, there is going to be a certain amount of risks that come because people are free. They're free to make choices. If we've seen it in Europe, if they don't have guns, they use knives or trucks or bombs. I mean, in France, it's super difficult to own a firearm. And still, they got machine guns into the country and they used them. We need to just accept the fact that there are people that are bad people. I wish there weren't, but there's always going to be that. And in a free society, you have inherent risks like that.
And there are people who can go to their houses and they've got a laser printer set up. And if they want a bump stock, they can just download it and print it out with polymer, the resin, and then they've got the thing. And again, they're not going to say, well, gee, Congress says this is illegal. I guess I won't do it when I commit my crime. There was the funny video out this week. I happened to see it. It's been around, I think, for a while. But they have the signs with the no gun zone signs. The guy runs into a store to rob it. And the owner points over his shoulder at the sign. And the guy says, rats, and walks out of the store. Tries to rob a guy on the street. The guy points over his shoulder at the no gun zone sign. And finally breaks into a house, runs into an old woman's bedroom. And he says to her, "Old Biddy, this is a robbery." And she points at the no gun zone sign on her wall. Not again. And he walks out of the house. It shows you the fact of the matter is if somebody wants a bump stock, they're going to build it on their own. And we have another caller. Caller, we'll squeeze you in here. We've got about 40 seconds before the break. We'll address whatever's on your mind following the break in a couple of minutes, but go ahead.
I'll give you back change. I was listening, and the only thing that wasn't said is that in life, all risk cannot be removed. We all know that there's risk. Unfortunately, there's a large number of people that think somebody else is going to remove the risk for them, and that's impossible.
Exactly. Thank you, sir, for the call. That's exactly right.
Well stated. And we want to point out we've got more coming up with. We'll talk a little bit about how you can get in touch with both Todd and Forrest in the next couple of minutes. But first, the break. We're at 43. It's 20 minutes after 9 o'clock. Bill Colley as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310. KLIX and NewsRadio1310.com. I've heard of this Patriot Defense before.
Yeah, so have I.
We have Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense, Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pawn, and Bill Colley this morning until 10 o'clock, talking firearms on News Radio 1310, KLIX and NewsRadio1310.com. And we're up to 45. You wanted to add something, Todd.
Yeah, so far, the few callers that we've had today, and, they don't think there's anything wrong with getting rid of the slide fire or the bump stock or whatever you want to call it, whatever brand name it is. I guess I'm just worried about giving up something because then what else are they going to take? You give them a little, I'm afraid they're going to take a mile. We had one caller call in, and I think Forrest even touched on it. Living in a free society, there's always going to be a little bit of risk. So that reminds me of this quote by Benjamin Franklin. Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. So I just don't want to give up for fear they're going to take more.
I think if you look at history, you look at China, you look at Pol Pot, you look at Russia, you look at Germany, you even look right here in this country at the American Indians. All the government said, look, give up your guns, we'll keep you safe. And that didn't work out
for any of them.
Any of those people. So there you go. You give up liberty, you're putting all your safety in the hands of one person. Well, when they decide they don't like what you're doing, you've given up everything.
Before we get to our next caller, Forrest, how do people get in touch with you at the shop?
Washington Street Pawn, 321 Washington Street. You can find us on Facebook under Washington Street Pawn. We're 3 blocks south of Addison on Washington. Phone number 208-735-0012. Send us a message, stop in, shoot the breeze. Come see me.
Todd.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook under Patriot Defense, or if you want to like my personal page, you can do that too under Todd Eccles. If I don't know you, I'll send you to Patriot Defense as well. You can call me, you can text me, area code 620-794-6223. That's area code 620-794-6223. My next enhanced permit class is on October 21st. I've still got plenty of room. If you're interested, just let me know.
Small world, too. We're talking about all this, and Dana Lash is on TV, so looking good as usual. We've got a caller with us. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air on KLIX. Go ahead.
Hey, Bill, good show as always. I was here listening to these gentlemen speak, and, this last week with these murders that happened down in Vegas, it's a terrible, terrible thing, and my heart goes out to the families, So we have to be, as Americans, we have to put it in it, gain some perspective. Like you mentioned earlier to start the show, 70 million innocent babies are killed in this country, have been killed. And we have such outrage for 59 precious souls that lost their lives. And what about the 70 million people? I don't hear these politicians crying and saying we got to do something and get rid of these doctors who perform these abortions. What is it going to take? How come they don't have a voice? Rush had an excellent part yesterday where that ridiculous senator from New York, bitching and moaning that Trump needs to do something. Why the hell doesn't he do something instead of just trying to outlaw? And I agree with, don't give him a damn bone. I don't give my dog a bone unless he obeys and he does what I tell him to do. Why the hell should we cave into them? It's ridiculous.
Well, in Chuck Schumer's case, Chuck Schumer does not admit it, but Chuck packs heat himself. So it's good for him. It's not good for everyone else. Caller, you're up next. You're on the air on KLIX and Top Story.
Good morning. Boy, that last caller was right on. Excellent discussion this morning, guys. And I guess I just wanted to point out a couple things. Every time, any of these discussions come up, we need to make sure that we remind people to take emotion out of it. Emotion is not based on facts, and it can lead to, the wrong things. And I'm going to tend to say, don't give them anything. I don't think that these stocks are worth anything. I don't want one. I don't have one. But I tend to agree, don't give them anything, because I think the second part of this discussion needs to go to what can we do in a situation like this or many others. What could be done? What could stop it? What will prevent or limit the loss of life? And I wish with the officers that were there and whatnot, that they would have had something that they could have stopped this guy. People say, you can't shoot back at a hotel like that or whatever. If officers were there and they had the right equipment, I believe that they could have stopped that, a whole lot quicker just by returning fire and taking the guy out. I think that's the next part of the discussion is what can we really do? Getting rid of things, banning things is really not the answer. It's not going to prevent loss of life or limit it or slow it down. And so I think that's where we need to look to is what can we do to stop this or to limit it.
I think we need to look at the example. What did stop him? One hotel security guard in the hallway. The guy shot 200 rounds through the wall, hit the guy in the leg, and then he shot himself. Because these guys are all cowards.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's what I'm saying. As soon as you confront one of these mass shooters with any kind of resistance,
they're done.
They kill themselves because they're cowards. And so that's why, one guy with a gun was able to stop this guy. The guy had a room full of guns. One guy with a pistol stopped this guy. Not because he even shot him.
Actually, the security guard didn't even have a handgun.
Oh, the security guard.
He was unarmed.
The security guard was unarmed. He knocked on the door. As soon as this guy faced any resistance, he killed himself. Now, as far as shooting back at that building like the caller talked about, I don't think in all the confusion they had any idea, the guys on the ground had any idea where the shots were coming from.
Right.
They were 400 meters away. You could have put some fire up there, but there again, if it comes down to the base of shooting. If you can't identify your target,
You don't shoot.
you don't shoot.
Got about a minute before the break. We'll squeeze one last caller in this half hour. More of our discussion coming up after 9:30. Caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, fellas. Hey, they've been doing it to us since Pearl Harbor. Everybody sat around Pearl Harbor with battle wagons there. Forget a rifle or a pistol or a semi-automatic rifle. We've been getting hit and knocked cold for years now by everybody. We always too little, too late. That's the problem. And when you pull a weapon on somebody, nobody pulls a weapon on you, me, or the cops or anybody else unless they plan to use it. Unless you're an idiot. And that's what's happened. And like I said, you guys know, my son's in the battlefield, and he's killed a lot of these bad boys. These soldiers don't hesitate. They shoot them dead. And the biggest problem we got is too much hesitation. If you're going to carry, shut up and just carry. You don't advertise nothing, and learn to use your weapon. I don't care whether it's a Sherman tank, a battle wagon, or a 22 caliber 5-shot, $99 pistol. Be a great shot with it. Smile. Be polite to people. And when it comes time to use it, don't hesitate. Or guess what? You're the one in the box, and the other guys had it.
Hey, Forrest, can you sell me a $99 5-shot 22 pistol?
Actually, I can sell you just about $129 6-shot single-action revolver.
You know what? If it's not $99, I'm not interested.
Find one on the streets of Denver.
But that guy's point is a good point. Train, be prepared. Don't be one of those guys flashing, shoving in everybody's face. Just be able to use your weapon when the time comes.
We got more coming up. Forrest Anderson joining us from Washington Street Pawn, Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense, and Bill Colley on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. It's 9:30. That is from our morally superior friends down under in Australia, where they are confiscating more firearms this week. And Malcolm Turnbull, the Prime Minister of that country, listened to what he said about what's going on in a speech yesterday.
Some of the 51,000 firearms that have been handed in as part of the National Firearms Amnesty. This has been a 3-month amnesty. It is an example of the way in which we are relentless in doing everything we can to keep Australians safe.
Other than the terrorist attacks in various places in this country.
Right. So explain this to me, okay? So you get an amnesty for 3 months to turn in a bunch of firearms that you're not supposed to have. Is that what it is?
Right, which you probably bought legally in the first place.
Okay. Well, didn't they do this years ago? And if they start, how many years ago did they first do this?
1996.
Then they still have a problem because the guns are still getting there if people are still turning them in.
51,000.
51,000.
So how did they solve that problem?
And you're telling me the bad guys were like turned them in? That didn't happen.
He retired. They retired. The bad guys retired. They didn't want to deal with them anymore.
Next month, when some Muslim terrorists shoot up another nightclub in Sydney, I guess they can say it worked.
Yeah, and I did hear a fact. I don't know if it's a fact. I heard it on the radio on some talk show that I listened to. They said that one of the things Australia does that might be a little bit better than us is they spend 2, if not 3 times more on mental health care than we do here.
Well, the Australian,
obviously a lot of crazy people in Australia.
It could be.
The Australian example is hard to use because they didn't have any mass shootings really before the one that they had. So they can't really track if they've gone up or down because they didn't really have anything before. There's a couple things I want to touch base on, and that is the fact that the way that we treat each other is a big part of this problem. The way that the press, the way that the politicians keep us at each other's throats. I had a conversation with a guy who was pretty hardcore liberal this week, And when we actually got done with the conversation, we came to the point we really weren't that far apart. We both agreed that we need better access to mental health care and better mental health care. We also agreed that, background checks aren't a bad thing. I mean, I'm for that. If you sell a gun and the person isn't willing to give you their driver's license, they probably got something to hide.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But it is the press and it's the politicians that keep us at each other's throats because that gives them something to run on. I think a big cure to this would be term limits. A good big cure to this would be people that poke and prod and get that angst and that tension that everyone in this country feels right now. Everybody's so nervous to talk to anyone about anything because it's going to immediately turn into a screaming fight. That needs to go away, and we need to recognize the people that are doing this to us. It's the politicians. Most everyday Americans are great people. They would do anything for you. But in this country right now, the climate is not healthy. Because the pundits and the politicians have us at each other's throats because that's how they get paid. If we all loved each other,
would be perfect.
They would be out of a job, and we would be fine.
I had almost the same conversation with someone. It was on Facebook, and I just went down. I said, well, it's it's the same exact thing you said. And I also talked about the fact that I guess you can look at the mental health care, but you can look at how we have devalued human life. We have dulled people's senses to the taking of a human life through always pushing to legalize abortion, through violent video games, through movies and everything our youth sees. And so, yeah, we're all sad and upset when someone dies, but these people maybe who are on the edge anyway, when they go ahead and take a life or take 50 lives or whatever it might be, they're doing that, and it seems to be becoming more common this happening because they don't value human life. It doesn't bother them.
Wanted to point out we've got about a minute before the next break, and then, of course, it's going to share some other couple of other stories too as well following the break. But before we do, for people who are looking to get in touch with you at Washington Street Pawn.
208-735-0012 is the phone number. Washington Street Pawn. We're at 321 Washington Street. You can find us on Facebook under Washington Street Pawn. We've got a ton of stuff in right now. We've been pulling a lot of tools. Stuff's been going fast, but stop in. We got a bunch of cool stuff.
Patriot Defense?
Yeah, you can call me. You can text me. Area code 620-794-6223. That's area code 620-794-6223. That's, you can call me. I got a class, or text me. I got a class on October 21st. I still have room in. Call me if you got questions about that. Text me if you want in. Text me with anything, questions, whatever. You can find me on Facebook under Patriot Defense. Like the page, and make sure you say hi.
All right, we've got more coming up with both Todd and Forrest and Bill Colley answering the telephones on News Radio 1310 KLIX and newsradio1310.com. 20 minutes from 10 o'clock, and we're at 45. Wanted to point out, you can reach us. We've got about 15 minutes to go in the show today. You can reach us at 208-736-0300. We're joined in studio by Forrest Anderson from Washington Street Pawn, Todd Eccles from Patriot Defense, Bill Colley as well this morning. And do want to point out, you can also email me, and I don't get as much traffic as these two get during the course of the hour. They're getting a lot of it today, and some of it is, colorful. But Forrest, I know you had something else you wanted to mention, too.
Yeah, I just wanted to read something I wrote on Facebook this week, and I kind of let the dust settle because people immediately jump, and I really thought about maybe what the cause of this was, beyond a crazy guy with a gun. And this is kind of what I wrote, and I'll read it quickly. It says, it's a tragedy what has become of our culture and the divisiveness in our society, but removing the rights of 99% of the population to punish 1% is not the answer. Bombs and machine guns are illegal in the UK, but still the bad guys use them. They are illegal in France, yet still the bad guys use them. They are illegal in Mexico, but still the bad guys use them. All agree that a free society has inherent risks, but no more than if freedom is surrendered. The biggest mass killings in the history of the world have been perpetrated by societies who have banned gun ownership to the general population. Russia, Germany, and here in the U.S., with the American Indians, they all surrendered freedom and liberty for promises of safety and then were slaughtered by their protector. 100% safety can be guaranteed. With checkpoints on the highway every 10 miles and curfews and police escorts wherever you travel, I can guarantee your safety from assault. All you have to do is surrender your freedom. Life sentences for gun crimes, more access to quality mental health will help, but ultimately unpredictable insanity will still be there. A gun, a truck, a car, a knife, etc. Bad people will do bad things. It's just the reality of human nature. A free society will always have dangers, but never surrender liberty for safety, because then you become a pawn of your protector. Together, let's quit hating and start pulling together. Let's watch each other's back, no matter our religious affiliations, our genetic background, or choice of sex partners, and overcome hate. We're all in the greatest country in the world, and we're all in this together. So let's talk more, let's talk less, and love more. Do something nice for someone today. Prepare for the worst, but live your life to the fullest and share your happiness and your prosperity with those around you. We can do it, and let's all remember the good in the people in this country far outweighs the well-publicized evil. Here's to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
And we have a caller with us. And caller, you're up next. You're on KLIX at 9:45. Go ahead.
Good morning, guys. One thing that I haven't really heard this week talked about is, you know, as a Christian, I look at the world through spiritual eyes. And, you know, there's enough hate and discontent out there with the enemy and the spiritual battle that's all around us. But we are really seeing less and less. I know this guy's, you know, older than I am and stuff, but the part that really worries me is we got less and less churched people, you know, whether you go to a non-denominational church like I do, or Mormon church or Christian church, Baptist, whatever, is, you know, those kids at least get a base of learning, you know, good and bad. And I mean, God gave us the 10 Commandments, for example, but we're getting and seeing less and less churched kids. You know, even my kids' age, which is in their 20s, and a lot of the people that I knew growing, raising those kids up, you know, a lot of people weren't really connected to a church. And so a lot of those kids, I think, have an outlook of the world is really hopeless, you know, when they do get to that point in life where they die, so to speak. You know, they just think it just all ends right there. So, you know, what's it going to matter what they do when they finish their life out if they choose to go out in a blaze of glory or whatever, just because they're happen to be mad, like Forrest was saying.
The point you bring up, the point that you bring up has been brought up a couple of times this week. I mentioned Pat Buchanan in the last hour and Laura Ingram earlier this week. This shooter grew up, dad was away in prison, so he had whatever fatherly presence he had in life, he was a pretty bad dude. They didn't go to church. He has no religious affiliations as an adult, no political affiliations, didn't belong to any service clubs. I mean, he's completely isolated in that sense. And so you don't grow up with the notion that there's judgment at any point for what you do.
I would ask the callers out there, when is the last time your kids saw you do something charitable for someone else? When's the last time that they witnessed that? And that's kind of what my point was we need to get out there and do things for the people around us. You don't know how that can change someone's day. You don't know how that can change their life. Restore people's faith in humanity. I see posts all the time. They're like, I was broke down and this guy just stopped and helped me. And just when I was starting to think that there weren't good people in the world, it restored my faith in humanity. Let's go restore some people's faith in humanity. Take your kids. Christmas is coming. Thanksgiving is coming. A ton of times when people down and out, it's a really sad time of year for them. We as a community could do amazing things to restore people's faith in humanity if we just go out and do it.
20 years ago, I was walking through a mall a few weeks before Christmas, and I was working at a TV station at the time, and I saw one of my on-air competitors there with his young children ringing the bell for the Salvation Army. And I stopped to talk, and he said, I wanted the kids to come do this with me today. He said, we're going to be here all afternoon because I want them to understand that there are people less fortunate than we are. And those kids grew up, obviously, with a lesson like that, and that's an important thing to remember, and people aren't getting that in many cases. We have another caller. We're about 10 minutes away from 10 o'clock, and you're up next on KLIX. Go ahead.
Hey, Bill. You know, this previous caller made a pretty interesting point, but I think we have to realize that as Christians, my Bible tells me that this is only going to get worse and worse the closer we come to the end. The division between Christians, true Christian, I'm not talking someone that just believes, because the Bible tells us the devil believes. So there has to be a difference. The difference is, God said it himself, unless you be born again. Unless, and your co-host made a good point. The image, the example as parents that we give our children goes a long ways to whether or not our children grow up and say, you know what, I want to follow what this man believes, this Christianity, because it's changed his life. Look how he treats me. And you know what, I want to be just like him. Ultimately, our example is Jesus Christ, who died on the cross for us. But I like to say this is going to be it, but I think it's only going to get worse and worse. So have a great day, gentlemen, and I'm all for your talk, and God bless you.
I want to point out, too, when Todd referenced the woman, we were talking to her at the break, 45 minutes before the shooting started, a woman is walking around the crowd telling people, you're all going to die. And this is almost like a Stephen King novel in the sense that it's like a demonic presence in the crowd telling people this in advance. And that's, you do wonder sometime if this is a sign of things to come, as the caller referenced.
I mean, it could be. And I want to reference real quick, if I've got just a minute. I'm going to follow Forrest's lead. I put something on Facebook too, which kind of got a rise out of some people. I'm going to read what I wrote, and then I'll tell you what the response was. It says, I wrote, train. I said, who out there is ready to defend against an attack on their family? Who is ready and prepared and able to get their loved ones to safety? Who out there is physically and mentally ready? Who has developed the skills? This all takes time, I know, but you have to start sometime. Get a firearm and learn how to use it. Get your concealed carry permit. Take some training classes. Get into shape. Today is the day to start. Quit being a sheep. You never know when or where evil will rear its ugly head, and it's time to be proactive. So I posted this on my Patriot Defense page, and someone jumped on there, and she wasn't like totally against me. She's like, I don't think having your concealed carry handgun there would have been effective. And you know what? I agree with her. It wouldn't have been effective. It wouldn't have stopped this. I'm not encouraging someone to take their weapon and try to find out where the shooter is and stop it. But if you're there with your wife, your kids, your mom, your dad, whoever, you should be prepared in all aspects. Be prepared and be vigilant. Know what's going on. Maybe you see that lady that you just mentioned that was yelling, "You're all going to die." Maybe that should, raise some hairs on your head. Go, this isn't right. Where are the exits at? You use your firearm to you have it there to help protect you. You get out. You use your situational awareness. You use all that stuff that comes with carrying a firearm. Be prepared. Be vigilant. I mean, can you pick up your kids and run with them? Are you in shape if you have to pick them up and run toward the exit? Do you have medical training? Are you prepared that way? Could you have possibly helped someone who had gotten shot? Maybe a loved one. There's all different things you could do, but it's all about just being prepared overall for a situation like that.
And even though the homicide rate is going down nationally, it has been for decades, the number of these types of shootings are going up. And the caller brings up a good thing. If they increase and you see more of them, there are certain parts of the country, you two reference this all the time. You love living here because there's a safety aspect of living in a place like rural Idaho that you may not get somewhere else. And a lot of people who live on the coast, who criticize so many people who've relocated to the Mountain West as being kooks, or they use preppers in a bad way. But the fact of the matter is, people here are ready for that defense if something like that starts to creep this direction.
Exactly. I think it's a two-tier thing. What Todd talked about, prepare yourself. Make sure if you have weapons, you know how to use them. Make sure you know how to do first aid. Make sure you've got a little food storage. Make sure that and it may not be for you. Maybe your neighbor's house burns down and you're able to give those things to them. So do that, and then love your neighbors. Go out there and do something good. Like I said, ask yourself this question and be honest with you. When is the last time your children witnessed you doing something completely selfless for another individual? When's the last time they saw that happen? Because I'll tell you, what they are seeing is all the things that are being thrown at them on the television and on the computer screen.
Yeah.
Which is completely immoral and just mind-numbing.
Desensitizes them.
Put them in the car. Go down to the soup kitchen. Help them. There's homeless people. I tell you where my pawn shop is. there's a lot of homeless people live in a canyon, and they come in to warm up in my shop in the wintertime, and I'll tell you what, they're generally good people. Had a few, made some bad decisions, a few bad strokes of luck. But it'd be amazing what handing them a warm loaf of bread would do for their day. Go out and help some charitable organizations.
Just help your neighbors.
Yeah, just
get to know your neighbors.
Restore faith
if you live where you have
in humanity, because a lot of people have lost faith in humanity, and it's really easy to restore. You just do something kind for them.
There were some kindnesses that came out of Las Vegas where, as bad as it was, Mike Rowe was writing on his Facebook page, answering a question the other day, and people know him from the TV show Dirty Jobs. And how do you deal with all of this and this terrible tragedy and the carnage? And he said, you have to reflect on the people who were the heroes that followed all of this, that the Marine who took 30 people to the hospital, he found a pickup truck with keys in it. So technically he stole it. He heard from the owner yesterday saying, hey, thank you, I need the keys back, and how's everybody doing? So the owner was okay with it when he discovered what the use had been, but you had all of these people who were standing up, and that's where we forget sometimes the good side of humanity shows up following something like this.
Well, and then there's that guy that stood up with the beer, and he's flipping off the guy. He was about 3 sheets to the wind, I think.
Yeah, if you're too drunk to help, at least you can show some resistance.
You can stand up and be a target, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, really, that's what it's all about. Talking about that, Todd's got some self-defense class coming up. We are actually putting together an advanced AR-15 class. I've got 4 people signed up for it. We're only going to take 12 guys. This is not a beginner class. We're going to teach you all the stuff that we teach the SEALs and the security forces that come from overseas. We're going to teach that. We're going to do a 1-day class. It's going to be a lot of shooting, about 1,000 rounds of ammunition, but we're only taking 12. I've got 4 signed up. We just put it together this week. If you want in on a really advanced class, and you want to really know how to use your AR-15, come down to Washington Street Pond. I'll get your name. We'll sign up. We don't quite have a date yet because I want to see how soon we get the class full, but come down and sign up for that.
And Todd, again, you've got a class coming up, concealed carry enhanced permit class.
Yeah, on October 21st. I've still got places. It's probably my last class this year that I'm going to have outside. Any other classes that I'm going to do this year will probably revert back to the indoor range. It's getting a little cool out. So, but yeah, give me a call, text me, area code 620-794-6223. Call me, text me if you're interested in the class. One more time, that's area code 620-794-6223. I also do a lot of private type classes lately, so give me a call. We can hook you up. I had a couple just for the anniversary. They actually just signed up, and they came out, and they just want to get into firearms, and we went over safety and the basics, and then we spent the next 2.5, 3 hours just shooting all my firearms. It was a blast. They had a great time. So
I was going to say, that's a good weekend outing with your spouse.
It forces me to clean them all too.
Yeah. Want to thank both Todd and Forrest for joining us this morning. Rush Limbaugh's program is coming up next following the news at 10 o'clock this morning from Fox. Bill Colley expecting to be back here Tuesday. Monday is a company holiday, so Tuesday, God willing, the creek don't rise. I'll be back on air 8 o'clock that morning. Also coming up after 1 o'clock news today, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck at 4, and Dave Ramsey from 7 until 10 o'clock tonight.